One of the ways I like to look at like bad situations anyway when they happen is I just always kind of look at it as it's just like an opportunity you have to kind of level up a little, to whenever you make a decision that kind of grows you as a person, then like it does just that. It grows you a little. It just kind of makes you a quote unquote better person. Better just basically meaning life's easier for you to live, and the more you can take seemingly bad situations well. I don't know, it's kind of like getting experience points or something, leveling up. Like you just kind of get used to that feel, and then just when you do come across a situation you don't like, and you're able to either see what you may be able to learn from it, or see what might come out of it down the road, or maybe see a worse situation that might have happened if that situation didn't play out. Like the more you're able to do that, the more automatic it becomes. And then if you can get that to a semi-automatic kind of thing, then like it just sometimes you won't even like realize some of the bad situations. Sometimes there'll be some situations that you don't even notice or think like, oh, that sucks. You just deal with it because I don't know.
It is what it is.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. It is what it is.
And it is one of those lessons we all learn as a kid, and it's like when you're just learning something as a kid, like it's a learning experience. You'll make mistakes, like
right.
You hear that constantly as a kid, and it's something we know, and we can take it. Like if someone asks us about it, we can give that explanation. Like, oh yeah, like you got to make mistakes. We're all aware of it, but when it comes to the time of the actual conflict and we're involved, like we're under too much stress, we're not thinking clearly.
Right.
We really just, our brain just kind of melts down. We go into this panic stage. So it's just that putting that to use rather than it's information we need to put to use rather than just have and store away, not to mention it unless it's in a trivial question. Like, know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think we hear it too much too. Like I think it just gets used so much to the point of it's just like an expression, and just feels like an expression when you hear it, and people kind of get desensitized to it and don't think of it. Like it's like a kid leaving the house and the parent going, "Be careful."
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time.
Okay, Mom.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
So then, like, you don't even realize it as an actual thing that you can use.
That's like a lot of problems we have are you could probably relate so many childhood phrases you've heard to if you actually put that saying or phrase into use and really got down to its deep meaning, you probably solve majority of your quote problems in a matter of seconds.
It's kind of how we're talking about in general with those words that you just don't even think about what they mean until it just clicks one day. Like not even just
really
phrases,
break
but
them
just like
down.
words. Yeah. Even can be just be silly stuff or serious stuff. This one isn't really a good example because like most people probably already knew this, but I didn't at the time. So when it hit me, I was like, oh. Movies. It just like hit me one day like, oh, movies as opposed to like, or like talkies because they're pictures that move. So they're movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The moving.
That kind of thing, but with stuff that's less obvious.
Yeah.
than that.
More profound and lighting, down to earth.
Like information. That was a weird one too, because I never thought about it like that at all until I told you. I was like, holy shit. What? That's like the key to existence right there. It's just the word information. That's how anything turns into anything. Like, it's just like the word for the process of form coming into existence.
Simple as can be.
Yeah, and then like it fits right in with the FAP. Fits the FAP.
Fits the FAP. The FAP's nice. You can't argue the FAP.
Yeah, I can't.
But it just goes what we're trying to get at. Like, if you're having a bad day, any sort of stressor at all, how you think of the situation is how you're really going to feel. Like, if you want to be happy, then why are you letting a situation or a stressor drag you down rather than focusing your attention on what will make you happy, what will make you content? There's definitely always going to be a struggle there because you're battling with emotions and just your basic anxiety, which is, that's all completely normal. That's just, I think that's beyond our consciousness, so to say. But how you want to feel about a situation, you have to focus your attention in that way. And as basic as it sounds, it is a struggle to do. And that's why there's all kinds of things like meditation, yoga, all kinds of mindfulness practices to try and get your brain to think in a different way, not work in a different way, but think in a different way.
Yeah. Kind of comes back to that, just taking that control of your mind and not feeling like your mind has control over you, or, you know, not feeling like situations have control over you and your feelings and just how you go about your day.
Yeah, really, how do you carry yourself? How do you hold yourself? And in basics term, it is, I don't know, when you ask for the meaning of life, it's a common question people always ask, and it's like everybody's waiting for this profound answer to just come out of nowhere to tell everybody what they should do with their lives.
Yeah.
But it's really just as basic as what do you want to do with your life? Like, you have this, you grow up, you learn what the world's about. How can you use this environment to give you satisfaction? If you really want to put meaning behind your life, look at it that way, because really there is no meaning.
Right.
So if you want to give it a meaning, then what meaning do you want it to have?
Yeah.
What impact do you want to have? And that can even take that a step down, and that can be situational. You're in a conflict of anything. Do you want to deal with it? Like, do you want to get involved? What is it to you? In the end, like, that's the real important part. Should you get stressed out? Should you get involved with these people? What is it to you? What's it matter? There's always going to be some consequences from your actions, but
yeah, whatever you do, but that's, you know, it's the fun of our experience here is stuff we do, you know, affects things. It's what allows us to interact, and we gotta kind of take the bad with the good with that.
Yeah.
And the good with the bad.
Gotta weigh them both out.
To go back to what you were saying a second ago before we move on, about the meaning of life and no meaning in that thing. I think that whole concept's just a really freeing thing for people to realize, like, when they really get a grasp for it, because so many people like really stress if they feel like they don't know what they're supposed to do, even if it's just like a job. If they don't know what they want to do for a job, they feel like they don't know what like their purpose is or something. Or, you know, so many people ask that, you know, like, oh, I wonder what my purpose is, or I want to find out what my purpose is. I want to find out why I'm here, and I want to know what the meaning of life is. And you could just tell them, hey, it's meaningless, you know, and like that'd be right. But just the way we think and the way our little positive negative filter works with thoughts, like you hear that and it automatically sounds bad. But I know we've talked about this before, but it's go real quick, talking about it, but it's like that coloring book versus blank page analogy, where and if you have a meaning in life, like, I don't know, when you think about it, it's almost kind of lazy to like think about it like that, because it's like, well, I just want to be told what to do, instead of, like you said, deciding what you want, your meaning to be. And it's like, it's meaningless in the way that you could live life on like a blank page and do what you want and draw what you want and color what you want, or you could have this quote unquote meaning in life where you're supposed to do something, and then you open up the door for like failure or something in life if you don't do it,
Yeah. Start
But if
coloring
there's
outside
nothing,
the lines.
yeah. But if there's nothing that you're obligated to do in life, like it's play, it's just play. So there's nothing that you're obligated to do. You can, like you said, you can decide what you want to do and make that your meaning in life. But, it's like there's not lines you have to stay in. There's not things you have to do it, quote unquote, right. You can just draw like on the blank page instead of having to worry about going outside the lines in the coloring book. I should have finished that before a little more when I started it, but
No, that was good. Yeah, it's just all about, and even if you want the coloring book version of life, I mean, that's a suitable life for a lot of people.
It's not bad.
No, not at all, but it is definitely, I know I had a struggle with it, like, I kind of wanted structure, but I wanted my own structure.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize, I don't know, it's still a work in progress for sure.
Yeah.
Just to do what you want to do, but once again it comes back to, what's it worth to you?
Right.
Do you want to color outside the lines? Do you want to make your own picture, or is it comfortable?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, like, even if you could choose before you were born to have a meaning in life or not have a meaning in life, there's nothing wrong with having to stay inside the lines and having a sort of obligation, because that kind of gives you, just kind of puts you on a ride instead of like driving, through life. Like, it just kind of puts you on a ride where you're able to go through and just, it kind of makes it easier to observe and experience the experience, because you don't have to, you're just, I don't know.
There's the comfort factor.
Yeah. It's like the lazy river of life. Yeah. You can just flow through and enjoy it without having to. That might even be the way to go, really.
If you want to take the safe route, yeah. Just enjoy it. I mean, also there's a lot of prisoners that just like the prison life, just because it does have that organization. Yeah. You get up, you eat.
You know what you're doing every day. Yeah, you don't have to think about, I don't know,
everything's worked out.
The variables of life. You don't have variables that can make it unpredictable. You don't,
You're fed, you get shelter.
It's a good example.
You can get a workout. I mean, it's a good lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's the basics of life. And it
turns
out,
Dodge and Shanks
and it's weird, like, these people do find it a nice lifestyle, and like how basic, and like they literally just have the necessities.
Yeah.
Maybe a little extra, but they have enough to get by, and a lot of them adapt to that lifestyle and can enjoy it.
Yeah. That's where it comes down to kind of choosing your meaning in life. Like, if that's what you're comfortable with, and that's, what you want, then make that your meaning if you want,
So be it. It's no wrong or right.
Yeah, it's like deciding to just go and live off in the woods, and I mean, in this case, there's still not anything you're obligated to do. Like you're talking about with, in prison, obviously you have to do stuff and you get happy. But even just like moving away from everything, going to live in a cabin in the woods and stuff, where you don't. Well, I guess that's kind of the opposite, because then you're really kind of free to just do what you want, but.
You still got, I don't know, your day-to-day tasks still doing
Yeah. Well,
that.
yeah. I guess
It's
if you're
still
being
way of life.
resourceful and you're actually living off the land and stuff out there,
Yeah.
then yeah, you definitely have a lifestyle you need to keep up. Keep the wood replenished. Gotta hunt.
But
Gotta keep that bear spray stocked.
structure and organization is a big play in humans. That's how we communicate. That's how we do everything. Structure, cities, environment.
Language.
Yeah, language. It's all organization.
You know.
We thrive off of it. And then we want to stray away, but sometimes it's good to get that little organization going.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just as natural as non-organization.
Yeah, could be a lot less stressful too.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot easier to not get overwhelmed when you have that structure and you don't have to constantly be deciding what you need to do all the time.
So let's go back to, like, if you're having a bad day, you're feeling depressed, you're stressed about something. When we make decisions and how we feel about it, and before we said we just have to, where we want to be is how we have to think. Like, that's what we want to aim for. We want to feel good in those situations. We have to focus our attention on good. And the thing that gets in the way is our ego. And that's just a loose term for your mind's distraction, your mind's ties to things. It's who you see yourself as. It's a lot of things. It's a loose term you can use, but it has ties to all those things. So all those loose, wild thoughts that are saying when you're depressed, like, oh, you did the wrong thing, you're a bad person, whatever it may be, that's your ego. And you want to identify your higher conscious, which is the person you want your consciousness to be, making decisions to the outcome you want to have. With the ability you have, in whatever case, you have a small amount of influence, but how you want to feel in a situation, how you want to act out, you want your higher consciousness to make these decisions rather than this loose cannon ego.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of difference between your control and your lack of control too. It's like your ego's more of like it's like a reaction, really, you know. But some people just live so much through their ego that, like you said, they identify with that instead of identifying with that higher consciousness and that self, you know, that real like self below all ego and all that. And I don't know, when you're just reacting to everything like that takes your control out of things, that takes your control out of the situation. It's kind of like, I don't know, that's like the fun in life is to be aware and be like able to actually experience this stuff and interact with it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say is it kind of takes out your interaction with life if you're just reacting. You know, it's kind of like autopilot.
A good way to put it is if you if you're just constantly living in thoughts, you're just feeding off your own thoughts and your own arguments in your head, you're not experiencing the world because you're not taking in any new information. You're literally just living a world in your thoughts.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way to put it. You're not taking in.
Yeah, any new information you're taking in is just bringing back up past experience that you have bad ties with, or you want to work it out. You have stress over it, so you just keep bringing it up in a different way. You're not letting in new information come and just let the happening be happening.
Right.
It's being in the past versus just letting the present be.
When you're constantly living through thoughts, like you said, and you're just living through reactions, you're giving up your creativity. You're giving up that conscious ability to change stuff, and like in reality, really, in your life and everything, your environment, things that are going around you, and you just give up that creative ability. And like, that's, if you had to say there was a meaning to life, you could kind of say it's creativity, because that's, I don't know, just that kind of, it is what it is, kind of the creativity.
Yeah, it's what meaning you want to give to it.
Yeah,
And it's
that's creating right there. Is creating the meaning.
It's an art in its own way.
Yeah.
What's your final masterpiece? What'd you do with your life?
Yeah, exactly. Did you have lines to color in?
She's freaky in that motherfucker.
Did you? Yeah. I think that kind of fits in with the living through thoughts and ego and stuff too, because that's kind of also like having those lines you stay in, or I think we talked about them before, like grooves, and every time you go down one of those grooves, it gets deeper. So if if you're constantly letting yourself think a specific way about a specific trigger, then you're just going to deepen those grooves. And it's just going to be easier and easier to funnel into that same mindset or thought process at that specific trigger every time. And eventually, that's, like you said, that just becomes the thoughts that you live through. And a lot of times, like it doesn't really do anything but like make the person unhappy. I think that's probably, just the reason of a lot of unhappiness too, is it's like, I've kind of seen this happen with people where like they'll kind of start those grooves with humor, like they'll develop a certain, like sarcastic or like, I don't know, down-putting kind of humor, like with the jokes they make about stuff, and like, for example, just, like completely joking around, but like making fun of somebody for when they, fuck up or make a mistake.
Yeah.
Like you can say it completely innocently and joking around, but at a point, like when you do that so much, it starts to create those grooves. And then it kind of shapes where your mindset's going to go at those same triggers in different situations. But it's going to start being not just when like you're joking around and being happy, and then you're going to, get into those like, oh, this fucking asshole, like,
Yeah.
Because that's just where your thoughts get funneled to because of these grooves that you deepen. That's why it's important to take that creativity or that ability to create and take that mindfulness, and it allows you to kind of just go where you want on ungrooved, territory. May not ungrooved because we inevitably have conditioning just through nurture, but
follow what grooves you want to.
Yeah.
Choose your own path rather than just let it happen. I mean, it's your journey when we talk about your life. So what path do you want to take yourself on? Are you just going with the flow and just watching, or are you taking an actual part of your journey and
interacting with it?
What do I want to do? And once again, there's nothing wrong with whatever you want to do.
Right. Some people like playing video games. Some people like watching people play video games.
Yeah. It all really comes down to, what is it to you? What do you want to make it? And if you're someone who's constantly stressing about life and would prefer not to. It's a change in my mindset, and you don't even need to go all zen or philosophical about it.
And no, you can just completely do it for you.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I
and
mean?
that's what it is all about. Once again, what do you want out of it? What do you want? What is it to you? So, change of mindset, a new perspective, many new perspectives. It's just that phrase, doing the same thing every day, expecting different results, is insanity.
Right.
So, if you want that change, you want to get out of a loop, because obviously you're not getting what you want. You just got to change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And even if you're still not finding it, you still have that thrill and adventure of knowing you're working for something and you're achieving change. You're making progress. Every step is as important as the last.
They're all on the way. Wouldn't have gotten to anywhere without all of them.
Yeah. You take that one footstep out and you're one footstep short of the treasure.
Yep. Kind of goes back to our car talks a little bit, and just having that ability to take a step back and see when you might be wrong about something, or be able to just accept constructive criticism, or when someone tries to tell you something differently than you think.
That really kind of ties in with ego.
Yeah. And you gotta kind of do that with yourself. You have to be able to take that step outside of that perspective you have at the time of, like, oh, that guy's an asshole or something, and take a step back from that, and just be able to be like, okay, I'm feeling a way I don't want to feel because of this way I'm thinking right now. And then take that control and be like, okay, so I have to change my mindset, and then I won't feel that way. But you have to be able to take that step back and look at it from outside and actually do that, and not just constantly be like, I'm right and they're wrong because they did this. And a lot of people think all the time, like, when you tell them to, like, calm down or not be upset about something, they'll be like, oh, well, this just happened, like, how can I not be upset about it? And it goes back to that just living through your thoughts and reaction, as opposed to taking that conscious control.
Yeah, and that's
when
we talk about your ego, that's your ego taking action versus what you want, your higher conscious. Who's that guy? He's the third party guy, that bystander who just watches things, your higher conscious. He's just the bystander watching everything.
Yeah.
He's watching your ego getting all these conflicts, and he's like, oh, they're both fools.
Yeah.
And that's the decision maker you want to be having, making the decisions. Someone not involved with the conflict, who has all these emotional ties, this stress and involvement, because it's, once you get in a situation, you have all that involvement, you're just not level-headed. You don't make level-headed decisions. Usually.
Yeah, usually.
So you want that third party. It's like when we talk about this a lot, when it's just like getting someone else's opinion in on the matter. You just get that outside perspective.
You need that moderator.
Yeah. Just a different point of view to put you in the right direction. You want to seek that beyond your ego. You want to look past your ego, your involvement in something, and say, what's going on here? One thing I used to always do when I was trying to get more, more down to earth and angry with people all the time, is I always, like, if I was in a conflict with someone, I would always just imagine them coming from the worst scenario. Like, someone's just getting mad at me because of a traffic accident. Like, oh, well, their mother's in the hospital dying of cancer and they were very close. Like,
Yeah.
that's awful.
Yeah, I've gotta consider that faff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta consider that all the possibilities.
And even if that's not true, I mean, that probably, obviously, not true, but just that thought and just being able to put yourself there is kind of like training and just letting your mind go, okay, that's a possibility. This is like, it just helps you get that different perspective going and be able to have you look at the world through someone else's eyes, because it's always going to be an imitation of your interpretations of their interpretation. But it helps you get closer and able to hone in on it quicker in a moment's notice. When you get into these conflicts, you can put yourself in that position and try and get a different perspective, see past your ego, and have a more calm and just not stressful view of the situation.
Right. And once you even just accept that you don't know everything about the situation, like really consciously accept that you don't know everything about the situation and you don't know why they're being a certain way, then that, well, like with your specific example, like say someone's, mom's dying and they're close. Well, if you can just accept that that could be a possibility, then you can accept that, well, then that means there could be who knows how many other possibilities, even if I am wrong about that. And it just kind of opens up that door for you to just accept that there's probably some possibility or there's something, and
he's
you don't
acting
know
the
what
way
it
he's
is.
doing just because
Yeah.
there's some reason behind it.
You don't have to know. But if you can just open that door that you might not be right, or not even that you might not be right, you may be right, but you have to realize it's not helping anyone.
Yeah.
Like making a bad person a worse person doesn't make them a good person.
Crying over spilled milk.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to help anything, so why bother with it?
Right.
It's the same principle. Just man up and put it in everyday life scenarios.
Yeah.
Someone's getting mad at you in traffic, honking your horn. You drive the rest of your way just stressed and angry at the person honking the horn at you, when it's really you should be noticed and then dropped. Like, you shouldn't. Why involve yourself with it if it's gonna stress you the whole ride?
You hear that? Oh, you don't have.
I got a dog snoring.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. It was just like every couple seconds. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you for that.
Oh, you're good.
Oh, like that's something with this or what?
But yeah, so rather than just being upset, involving yourself in affairs that you don't wish to be a part of, you just have to focus your attention elsewhere. And once again, there's so many things you can do to do this. It's just all training out of your mind and rerouting the grooves you've created throughout your lifetime of just thinking in whatever way you do. Just gotta little steps, baby steps, every little thing, and you're probably never gonna get it perfect.
Yeah, no, there's gonna be no perfect.
You're not gonna be Buddha just walking around.
Yeah.
Giving everybody the best wisdom they could ever seek.
I always think about perfect as like a limit, though. Like everybody thinks about perfect as like a good thing. I think about it as like a limit. Like, cause if you were perfect at anything, all that says is that you can't be better at it. You know?
You're capped off.
Yeah. Topped out, boy.
Can't be doing that. There's
no
limits.
No limits. No limits.
Also a good way to think, like getting down to real, thinking basic to basic. Like, you have your 5 senses. to interpret everything you know now has been interpreted just by your five senses taking in information. And that's hooked up to your brain. Your brain takes in all this information. It just gives it to your consciousness, and it's just constant information going wild, and you organize it to make everything you know now. So you have to think, you are constantly taking in information, but yet it's so little information that's actually out in the universe. Like they say a fly's brain, don't quote me on this one, but it's like a fly's brain has more brain activity just because of how much, versus a human's, just because of how much information it has in light. Like its whole brain's pretty much dedicated to light sensing. Okay. So it processes so much light data. It's more data than our brains produce, doing everything it does. Okay. But yeah, look at the intelligence difference.
Right.
It's just taking in information in a different way, and it's doing it a lot better, but it doesn't have that more developed conscious to it, I guess you could say. But so we have just such a small piece of the puzzle. We just have this tiny piece of this giant puzzle, and we claim we have the big picture, like we know what it is. We're always claiming like the picture is this. I got the piece right here to prove it. And it's just like when the dog reference, you take a picture of a dog from any angle. You could take a dog close up. It's just fur. You can't really tell this is a picture of a dog. So we're always claiming we have the big picture, but really our five senses are just nothing. So we really have no real input and knowledge of the universe. What we know is just reference of random senses to such a minute, like we're not even good with the senses we have.
Right. It's like we have just very specific like receivers, like our hearing and vision and stuff. We can pick up such a limited range of wavelengths compared to what's out there.
Mm-hmm. You have dogs hearing and smelling so much better than humans.
Yeah, and they just have that, but there's still things that we can hear that they can, and things they can hear that we can't. Mm-hmm. So, there's just this scale, with these ranges, and you're somewhere on that range, and you can't see, the rest of it. And we just assume like, oh, we can't see it, so it's not there. But you have to just consider that there's other stuff affecting stuff, even if you don't know what it is.
Yeah. And then there's even things that our five senses can't even detect. Like just x-rays and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Like we can't detect those. We can't see them. We can't hear them. But obviously they're there. So when you think about it like that, we don't really know squat. And then you can even take that a step further to apply that to another human being. They developed the same way you did. They just took in everything from their five senses, organized it into a way that made sense to them, so they can make sense of the world. So we're making sense of stuff that is senseless, but we're just making sense of it.
Right.
So everybody's own interpretation is right. It's unique. It's just the happening.
Yeah. Plus what they do with that information is, like you were saying before, it's like an interpretation of an interpretation. So, like you have one person taking in information with their senses and then converting it however they do in their mind, and then they're like raising a kid or something, and then their view of everything is different but still influenced by their environment and stuff. So that kind of just develops just changes how they interpret their receivers too. So like there's people that see and hear the same stuff you do, but it doesn't go through their mind the same. It doesn't cause the same thoughts and stuff as
Yeah,
it does
just
to you.
triggers. Like when you smell something, some people have so many ties and memories to certain
Yeah.
smells. When to you, there could be nothing attached to
Might
it,
not
or
even notice it.
different feelings.
Yeah. Something we don't consider is that people are getting just to an extent, they're getting a whole perspective put on them, in that way. And some people just aren't, some people just haven't worked their, some people just haven't like worked that interpretation muscle, very well, and they're not, it's not their fault, but they just have a skewed way of interpreting things. But they don't know that. They don't know that their view of stuff is necessarily skewed. So they're acting the way they are because just like you believe your perspective's true about stuff, they believe their perspective's true. And that we don't entirely 100% create our own perspectives. Like it's going to be formed by our environment to an extent. And
it's kind of like in movies when the bad guys are actually the good guys, and the good guys are the bad guys. Yeah, it's all perspective. Like the movie plays it out to make the bad guys who are doing like the robbing, killing, and everything. They're actually the good guys. Those are the guys you're cheering on. And then like the cops and like law enforcement end up being the bad guys. And they just play that switch out and give you the perspective in just the right way to make you think that, like, okay, go bad guys. They're the good guys.
Right.
They're the freedom fighters.
And it's not your fault that, that's how it was written.
Yeah.
That perspective was given to you. And to an extent, there's, that's how life is too. There's just certain, if you knew all the flaws in your perspective, then you wouldn't think that way,
And that's the beauty. Once you even can think about, I don't want to think this way, it's so easy to change it. Because it's simply just by changing the way you think. It's easy, but still a hard enough thing, and just, I think, always misinterpreted and so vague on how you do it. Because I think everybody's looking for a trick to it, and really it's just...
you just do it.
You just do it. It's as easy as that.
They went like steps.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll just do it how? Like, you just kind of do it and kind of not do it. It's like a letting go.
And that's a good step. Like, I don't know, you can even get into yoga, basic meditation, tea ceremonies.
Yeah.
You can get Zen in any way you want and just take in information that way. But when you do these activities, like you could even turn your mindfulness training, you can take your favorite hobby and turn that into your mindfulness training. It's just focusing your attention to get what you want. We're trying to get that, what do you want out of it? You're picking through, you're focusing on attention on what you want.
I think it's hard for people to decide what they want, as a first step to decide what to do about what they want, because a lot of times they feel like stuck into those coloring lines, into that coloring book, like, oh. Yeah. So have you ever heard someone like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like something will happen, and then they'll be like, "Oh, it's okay. You can just do this about it." And then they'll be like, "Well, no, I can't do that because then this, and and you can offer them all no matter what solution you give them,
advice,
they just come right back with a reason,
I can't do
any excuse why they can't do it." And I don't know. I guess maybe I was getting at, like, we kind of have this somewhat natural habit to like throw away our control in that way. So just kind of, I don't know, we just become like slaves of situations, and if we or well, like not necessarily situations, but our thoughts about them, and think like, oh, this is a bad situation, so everything about it has to be bad, and I can't do anything about it.
It's a big lack of mindful. It's that mindful influence. Like, it's the one thing we have control of in the universe, and that's, yeah, like you were saying, people get stuck coloring in the lines. They're not freehanding stuff. They're sticking it in between the lines. They're coloring. They can't do this because they're just stuck in that pattern.
Oh, I can't remember. I was going with that now because you said that. Yeah, they get like kind of they put themselves into those lines, and even when there's like a way out, you know, like I was like the example I was given, you know, with people just completely denying their ways out of things and their solutions of things, they just have this like feel that they're stuck in those lines, you know, like, oh, I can't do this because of work, or I can't do this because of this. But like if they sat back and figured out a way to do it, you know,
Yeah. It's what is it to
like
you?
you could, yeah.
If it's really this important, this issue, it's a pressing matter, you need to take care of it, then do it.
Yeah.
If it's really not that important, then just throw it on the back burner.
That's why I try and squeeze these in where I can, even if it's like 2:00 in the morning.
Right?
I could sit back and just say, oh, I don't have any time to do that. I got work and I got this and I got this, and
it's so easy not to do stuff.
Yeah.
But
and
when
just sit back and be like, well, how can we make this work? At least somewhat for now. I'd like to do things earlier and stuff, but more often.
Yeah, but definitely it is all what is it worth to you? What do you want to sacrifice? Because once again, every action it's a domino effect. Every action is going to make some effect. Some effects are going to be negative in your point of view. Some are going to be positive. Does it outweigh enough to make you want to do it? Those who justify do not convince. It's just one of those sayings that, yeah, like, stop giving yourself excuses, because obviously if someone's giving you input on a situation and you're just not having it, or they're not having it, they're just making, like, they obviously can see it from a different perspective, and you're just not taking that time aside to go, oh, okay, maybe. A lot of people are just too stubborn. They're letting the ego do all the talking.
Yeah.
All the thinking, and they just get involved in their conflicts. It's too much organization. You're not letting your nature come out. Your nature is making decisions, what you want to do with your life. That's your nature, that's your doing. Like a flower flowers, the universe universes. You do what you do.
Yeah.
You gotta do your thing, and you can just be a flower that flowers into
whatever, whatever you want, really.
You can just let it happen, or you can choose what flower you want to flower into. You want big, beautiful petals?
Hey, let's not make this a petal measuring contest.
Do you want to attract bees? Do you want to attract butterflies? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
So a lot of people let that go and let their ego do all the decision making. And when those conflicts come into play, they're not doing their part. They're not letting themselves flower. They're just being that zombie, just a robot, just going along, letting the happening be happening. Once again, it's like sleeping in the car on a road trip. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's so much you're missing.
Yeah.
There's so much you're missing.
Yeah.
so much to enjoy, to see, and pick out, and that's life. And you can involve yourself in your thoughts and be stuck on your thoughts. Just be thinking about your thoughts. Or you can just sit back and just let new thoughts come in. Don't get stuck on that endless loop, that paradox of thought. Just let new stuff come in. Ease your mind. It's like when you're in a depressed mood, the worst thing to do is to isolate yourself, and that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
But then
just
when
stick yourself alone with everything you're thinking.
And that's what you want to do, and the idea of hanging out and doing stuff is just, I don't want to do that. But as soon as you go out and start doing that, you're not focused on being depressed. You start to get involved. Sleepy girl. But yeah, you start becoming involved, and your thought is more focused on actually being involved in the party and what's going on with your friends. You're not, oh, poor me. It's okay. It's just where you focus your attention on is where your mind's gonna go.
Yeah.
So it's like we just said before, it's as simple as thinking it to be whatever way you want it to be.
So what would you what would you give for a suggestion on how people can flip that switch to really realizing that, and actually, because I mean, as much as we can talk about it, like, it's a real hard thing to do. To, like, in the situation, to consciously stop yourself and be like, okay. I know, like they say, so one of the things, kind of how we talked about earlier, one of the things, like, they always tell you to do, and you're like, okay, I heard it all the time, is, taking a breath in situations. But, like, I mean, that can really help. That gives you that, just, it gives you that moment of a break in your ego. It gives you a moment to not react for a second. And not, sometimes all you need is just that little crack in the wood to let some light through.
Yeah.
And it can make a ton of difference. But I didn't mean to ask you a question and then answer it, but I just kind of thought about that after I asked it.
But no, if like someone's really serious and they do want that change of mind and a new outlook, they want to change their grooves.
Change your groove, man.
I think the easiest way to do it would just to be to pick something to make your mindful activity. You gotta think of it as fun. You gotta do something you enjoy. Like a lot of people enjoy yoga. If you're an exercise person, yoga's great for you. You get mindfulness, you stretch. You can do some core strengthening positions too in yoga. Yeah. You can do all kinds of stuff in yoga to better your mind and body. So stuff like that, even just meditation practice itself, anything that works that mindfulness and just gets those gears going. It's like when you're learning Spanish and you start only learning Spanish in the class, but then once you're a little familiar with it, you start saying small phrases and stuff in Spanish outside of class in just your daily life. And so that's where a mindful activity such as meditation, yoga would be beneficial, because once you get that little bit of experience and you've really focused on it for a portion, you get a few classes going, you're just able
to take it with you.
Yeah, it's just more readily available in your mind just to go, oh, okay, apply.
Yeah. I know what to do here.
Yeah,
it's like you don't have to think about it anymore. It's not even work at that point. It just becomes a part of you and what you do.
Yeah, and it's all muscle memory.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So once you get, I think you should have kind of a focused attention on it if you're really trying to do it. I mean, you could go by just trying to remind yourself frequently, but you're not going to have the profound results as in actually taking the time aside to do it. I mean,
Right.
if you want to do it, then do it.
And it's more likely to become just like one of those oversensitized or desensitized cliches, like we were talking about earlier, where eventually, even if you're telling yourself something and reminding yourself of it, it's just gonna get repetitive and then just be like, you know, one of the ones we said earlier that I can't think of. But yeah. And then you lose that profoundness of it.
Yeah. So about how we're all breaking this down, how it's all situational and how you want to view it. And if you're looking into mindfulness and trying to just, I don't know, get that more down to earth, see what it's about. One of the most basic things we always talk about it is the perspectives. I got into that already a little. And so a little extreme to look at perspective. You could look at your life, everything you know, say that's right, that's right. You could raise someone to thinking that blue is red, the sky is the ground, water's land. You could raise them believing everything's the opposite. But they're only making that's like the only tie there is language. So they see the earth and the world pretty similar to you. They've definitely made different interpretations. But it's safe to say they know the world. They see it pretty close to you. But if you were to talk to that person, you would think they were absolutely crazy. You wouldn't. Okay. It would just, you wouldn't be able to get a point across.
Yeah.
But really, they're sane. They're completely sane. They see the world just as you do. They just have that different perspective and that different attachment to things.
Right.
So that's a bit attachment to an extreme. But you take that to a smaller scale. That's how it is with thoughts and how situations play out.
Yeah.
When you get offended over something or by someone saying something or what they do, you have to realize, even if they are just being an asshole,
was, water.
It is what it is, and like they're doing it because of some reason. You don't need to know, but just that acknowledgement. If you really can grasp that, and just get a hold of it, it really does help ease you. It's just comfort knowing. Like you have the key, you know the secret, you know what's going on, you have the bigger picture. So just knowing that information, something's at work here, it's just the universe happening. You're okay.
Yeah, those moments.
So in conclusion, take your mind where you want it to go.